Welcome to Manifesting Your Mission with Brianna Brown-Keane. I am a professional actress, producer, author, speaker, CEO of 501c3 nonprofit The New Hollywood, an executive coach, mama, and wifey. And each episode, we will dive deep into how to amplify your life personally and professionally using Manifesting Your Mission process and alongside incredible experts. Why? Because I believe that when we are all living our purpose, our world will be a happier, healthier, more harmonious place. So let's dive in and create ripples of change together and have a lot of fun doing it.
Thank you so much, India de
See, I messed you up now by going French.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much, India de Beaufort, for joining Manifesting Your Mission. We were talking about how her last name could be French and it would sound so interesting being French. And I'm like, but it already sounds interesting.
It is French, but if I had a French accent, it would be Beaufort, which would sound better than de Beaufort.
Yeah.
I messed you up.
But now you need to say it in American dialect.
De Beaufort, I guess. De Beaufort.
Yeah. I think all three sound good.
Yeah. I mean, at this point, I'll answer to you. So whatever works.
Hey, you. Well, thank you so much for joining. I just adore you. You're so creative. You're just like creativity literally comes out of your pores and it's just bright and shiny and beautiful and also really like activist. So I love so many things about you. Before we jump into all of, the questions I want to ask you, I want to ask you, what are you drinking? Because it's really important.
Well, about a year ago, I got told I have high blood sugar, so I'm drinking water. Water like a good girl. My mom would be proud.
Right. Not alkaline water, not like blessed water, not water infused with lemon, just like hydrating water.
Occasionally, I do throw in a spoonful of a prenatal collagen, even though I'm done making babies. But my OBGYN told me that this particular blend is very hydrating and hydration helps your blood sugar. So yeah, that's my treat. It's my treat.
Ooh, you just are so decadent. You're like, I'm just going to have water.
I'm going to have water and then I'll have this monk fruit sweetened treat.
That's right. So now we're going to dive into your silver lining. And within Manifesting Your Mission, there's a whole section in the guidebook. And those that are watching on YouTube, you can see it behind me. And within it is looking at different things that have happened in your life that were awful at the time. But looking back, you were able to extract blessings from it, lessons from it, and actually look back with some grace and gratitude for what had happened. Maybe not all of it, but at least part of it. And so to be able to have that perspective, especially while we're in the middle of a storm, that maybe perhaps there's something that we can get from it. So I would love to start off, with just a soft, easy, light question. Like, what's the hardest thing you've been through that?
Well, I was raised by a single mom, with the assist of her mom, who was my grandmother, my nan. Ella de Beaufort. And I lost her last year. And I was here in LA and I got a phone call that it was looking like we might lose her. I had flown to England. I made it to the care home that my nan was in, and I was the night watch. I was sleeping by her bedside. I was lying on the floor on a mattress next to her bed each night when everybody else went home, which meant that I really just got her to myself. I got time to talk to her. I got time to be with her. I got time to create an environment that if she were to pass would be safe and warm. And she had spent her whole life looking after me. And now this was my sort of last watch looking after her. And then I got a phone call around 2 a.m. from my reps back out in LA, and they knew what I was going through. So I knew that if they were calling, it must be something I would need to pick up for. And I had been let go from the TV show that I was working on, which was about to get picked up for a 3rd season. And they needed to let me know before that announcement was made. So unfortunately, they had no choice but to call me during this difficult time. And I had I ended up losing her a few days after that. And I'd been working as an actor for almost 25 years, and I'd never been let go from anything before. And I had never lost anybody that close to me before, because losing her was like losing a parent. And so that was definitely, by all means, one of the hardest moments I'd ever gone through. However, having my nan pass that week made it almost impossible to care about anything else. And it really put everything so quickly into perspective, because I couldn't possibly care about losing a job when I was losing one of the loves of my life. And I've said this a few times, but in a lot of ways, I see it as her last way of taking care of me. Like it was her last act whilst I was taking care of her. And then when I returned from Los Angeles after the funeral and it was maybe about a month later, I got home and really just wanted to focus on joy and was trying to figure out how I could manifest joy for myself. And I'm not a person who likes to sit still. I like to be busy. So I started using the spare time I now had by posting videos of me styling clothes on my Instagram. I've been collecting vintage since I was 16. I studied fashion and construction. I'm a diehard fan. I showed a collection at New York Fashion Week in 2012. And so it was a very natural next step in a lot of ways. And then out of nowhere, my Instagram started growing. And in a time when the entertainment industry, as Brianna knows, because you're also an actor, is in the toilet, I was able to almost begin a new job that now is attached to one of my other loves through social media. And now, it provides income and an enormous amount of joy in my life that I never saw coming.
Yeah. Well, and what's so fun, because it's cool to watch you when you've popped up in my rotation. And, because you'd always have really great posts, but then it was really fun when I could see that you were taking it seriously. Like taking it seriously and having fun, but you were really like creating these artistic pieces and showing what you could do and how you would take pantyhose and turn them into a top, or you're like, I don't like that. I'm just going to cut it. And you're like, whoa, girl, like, that's fierce. Like you've confidence that you've done this before, and I'm sure fix it if it doesn't work out great. But you definitely are creating this kind of world and this permission for women to be colorful and joyous and artistic and expressive. And it's really fun to watch you blossom into this other side of you. It's always been you've always, you've done things for Smith, you've done things, you've done things over the years, or you've created your music videos, or you've done all the things. You're just like I said, you're such a creative that creativity just comes out of your pores. But it's really, really cool to watch you do this and see this is all you. It's not being produced by somebody else. It's
all me. And honestly, I think I attribute a lot of it to my mom, because single family, we were on benefits, money was scarce, necessity breeds invention. So my mom did chop this, cut that, change this, change that. And she was a dancer. And I think that's also a large part of dance culture too, adapting your clothes to wear them in a unique way that suits you creatively. And the community that she was surrounded by had an enormous impact on me in that way also. So I think a lot of it comes from that.
Yeah. And now you have this, your shopping budget must be, you're like, I need to.
It's not too bad. It actually, if anything, I think it's decreased a little bit. My vintage shopping budget is still as bad as it ever was. But I am fortunate enough that a lot of brands also jump in and are encouraged by the joy and will say, hey, would you like to try something or take a look at something? And I love supporting small brands especially. So that's been really fun to discover brands I maybe never would have discovered if they hadn't had come to me. So I've really been enjoying that sort of creative collaboration as well.
Yeah. I want to ask you a couple more things about this before I jump into more about your journey. Was it hard to get going? Did you have hesitancy about doing that and putting yourself out there in that way and creating it? Or, because I feel like that's a big hiccup for a lot of artists, is just the hesitation to start, or is this becoming a thing, or, or.
Yeah. Honestly, many years ago, I don't know, 10 years ago, I started a different Instagram account called Give No Flamingos, meaning give no other things that start with F. And that, I think, was the first time that I ever felt like I had announced to my social circle, hey, by the way, this is something I love. And I remember feeling a little nervous about it when I first started posting. But then after a while, it just became me. It was who I was anyway. I had just been scared to announce it. And then once I announced it and I just committed to it, I was like, yeah, accept me as I am. And now my community, my close community, all know. They expect me to show up wearing something from the 20s or something I cut and sewed or made from curtains, or nobody cares.
Yeah.
And I think the other blessing of getting fired is that there's this idea that you should, especially in our town, when people hear about somebody getting let go or get fired for something, there's a lot of oh my God, I wonder what happened. And, and I think people it's like you're supposed to feel ashamed or embarrassed, or there's supposed to be some kind of taboo around it, or there's an expectation that there is. Okay, well, If you'd have asked me 25 years ago what was the worst thing that could ever happen to me in our industry, the answer would have been getting fired. Okay, so it happened and the world didn't stop turning. It sort of just turned in a new direction and I was the driving force. And so there's something really empowering about that. So I think when I started this, at this point, I had no more flamingos left to give. I was like, screw it, whatever makes you happy. If it makes you happy, do it. And life's too short not to.
Yeah, well, that was definitely drilled into you seeing the passing of your grandma.
Yes. Yeah. And also she felt a lot of limitations in her life and there were a lot of steps she didn't take. She was told by a fortune teller when she was 16 years old that she would never end her days in England. And so she never traveled her entire life because of this one thing that was said to her this one time. And then as she got older, she came to America twice. The second time was in her 80s. She went to Hong Kong once. But other than that, she never left England. And then, of course, she died in England. So, if that's not a sign that you can't take anything at face value and you should never let anything stop your adventure, I don't know what is.
Yeah. Well, I remember like a billion years ago. I mean, obviously not really, but I took a little bit, because I know, studied at Leslie Kahn for a while, but I studied there for a heartbeat. And one of the things she said that was really meaningful was that you are not actually like if you get fired, if you get replaced, it's like, oh, now you're in the game. It was like there was some version of like, now you're actually in it. Like, welcome. Like, this is what it is. Like, this is, and what a luxury that it took you 25 years to get that, you were clearly in the game before that. But the point of that is like, that is just part of the journey. And so it's kind of demystifying or saying like, oh no, it is horrible. And you must have, I don't know, been a horrible person or whatever the things were. You flubbed your lines too many times or whatever the, stories that we create in our heads. And, as artists, we all make mistakes. And there are times where I've been fired or replaced on something. And I'm like, oh my God, what if I did this or that? Or like, oh no, they needed to change the budget for storyline or they needed, and you can, or I remember the first time I got taken out of a movie and I was so like devastated. And it wasn't until a few years later, it was my first big movie that I was in and it was called The Animal. And the director, like in another movie, he brought me in and I was like sheepish about it. And he apologized to me. He's like, I had to cut your storyline because of XYZ that happened on that day because of this. And that scene didn't work. The through line didn't work.
But I have a thought about that. I wish he had emailed you or called you or written to you or apologized to you when it happened.
Of course. Of course.
That always drives me nuts because there's been times I've had stuff cut from things and I've been fortunate that I've received a phone call but then I do hear about the times where that doesn't happen. And I wish that you had that phone call because then you never would have felt sheepish and you never would have wondered.
I know.
And you were owed that phone call.
Yes. And it was so weird too because I was in the trailer. Like I got the jacket, I got the merch, I was in the trailer. And so it was my first big movie. It was a huge movie.
But did you know before you watched it? Did someone tell you? You didn't know until you saw it?
No, I was at like the premiere.
See,
and I'm watching
shame on them. I have to say, shame on them. That's terrible. That's just terrible. It's so terrible.
You know what? I think it was the first movie for him as a director. And I think like also.
That was his learning curve.
Well, and also if production's funky or, maybe it was a last minute decision because of ratings, because all the things that go, there's so many things that, actors can take personally and people take personally that are not personal. But yeah, so anyway, I just remember that being really interesting. So let's just dive into your highlight reel because again, you're such a creative. You already mentioned some of the ways in which you've been creative, but I would just love to know more of your journey. Like, how did you get into the arts professionally? And, there's not a lot of people that are in the club that make a living doing it, let alone, like you said, 25 years.
Yeah. And there's even less now, unfortunately. Both my parents were in the business. My mom and dad met as dancers. My mom had been a professional dancer since she was 16. She used to dance on a lot of British TV shows, variety shows, royal varieties, seaside specials, summer specials. Back then in the 70s, 80s, the dancers would come to the screen and they would say, Karen, and then they would dance off. It was more of being a dancer was more of a featured role in British television. And so that's what they were both doing. And my father was also a musical theater guy. So he did a lot of West End shows and then eventually ended up going out to Germany to do an Andrew Lloyd Webber musical out there that he did for, I don't even know, 10, 12 years, right up until he retired from musical theater. And then he owned a opened a theater school. And then my mom went from dancing to choreography to being an agent, commercial agent, all of the things. So that it really was, I grew up at the circus and it only ever felt like home. But I didn't go to a theater school. I went to a regular public all-girls school, which was rough. And my mom very much didn't want me to pursue the business because she knew how unstable it was. And obviously we were struggling. So that was a clear sign of what a challenge it could be to be an artist. But if you've got the itch, you've got the itch. So I did a couple things when I was as a kid because I came out of the womb like this. So a few of her friends would ask friends of hers, producers or so on, and say, hey, I need a kid for this thing. Can we use India? And then when I was 15, she finally let up and said I could do it. And so a friend of hers who she used to dance with was a music manager. I wanted to be Britney Spears. So she took me on. And then that same year, I ended up getting signed to a label that owned a children's TV show. And it was a children's multicam for the BBC with a puppet called Basil Rush. And they put me on the show as a singer, but I was terrible as an actor. Even one of the producers even said, and I heard it, she's so good at the singing part, but the acting part, yeesh. But they had to have me because the label that I was with were paying for the show. So I did that for a few years and then managed to get out of that deal because it was not a great situation. And then I was still pursuing being Britney Spears when my commercial agent got me an audition for a movie that David Schwimmer was directing because they couldn't find the girl. So they cast the net wider. It fell in my lap and I went in and I had no experience really as an actor. I'd been on this TV show, but I was terrible and my confidence was through the floor. And David Schwimmer saw something and just decided that he thought I was an actor and he loves actors. He's got a theater company. And so he asked if I would come back again for a second audition. And he sat with me in the casting office for like an hour and taught me about script analysis, and then had me come back again for an audition with Simon Pegg, who I read opposite. And then I was leaving the audition. I heard my name being called and David Schwimmer's chasing me down Shaftesbury Avenue in Soho in London. And I turned around and I got the job. And so during the filming of that movie, he said, listen, I know you want to be a singer, but I think you're an actor and there's something there. And I think you're a comedic actor and you should pursue that. And I ended up meeting with his management company, and one of their associates was just starting to manage, and Tom Drum, who's still my manager to this day. And he and I teamed up together and have been pounding the pavements ever since.
Amazing. That's a very cool story. Well, it's like neat that it was so in your face. Like, nope, this is the past. Do this. And
yeah,
it resonated with you.
Well, I mean, if you're going to trust anyone. And at that time, I was English. I'm just a girl in Tolworth, England, watching Friends on Thursday nights, doing the da-da-da-da, through the outro with my mum and my brother. And the next thing I'm on a set with the guy and he's giving me some sound advice and I took it. Thank God, because as a singer, that I gave it a good few shots, but you don't get health insurance. You audition and you're a singer and that's it. That's what you've got. And then if you don't get anywhere, you don't get anywhere. Whereas if you're an actor, okay, you audition for that, you don't get it. Okay, well, something else. Maybe you're that. Maybe you're this. More opportunity, more longevity. We hope.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah.
But yeah, here we are.
Amazing. Amazing. All right. I'm going to go into my long ass list because I know like I said, you're so creative. And I feel that as artists, when we allow ourselves to enjoy and savor life, we then can create more because of it. Obviously, you're not from here originally, but travel, I feel like, is really influential. For me, I wanted to know what has been the most impactful place that you've traveled to and why?
I think because I'm from England and my husband's from Massachusetts, when we travel, we go home. When, if we have the money to travel, other than our honeymoon, we pretty much go home. So, but there's a place in the north of England called Liverpool, which is where my nan was from, my mom was born. And that's where I spent a good amount of my childhood when my mom was working with my nan and my family. And I think that will forever be the most impactful place that wasn't my actual home. Because the people of Liverpool are just the best. They're grounded and funny, and they don't let you off with anything, and they're just salt of the earth. And I think when you've been a part of that community, it sticks with you. And it's a piece of myself I'm very proud of, that I'll never let go of, that I think keeps me, hopefully, a good person, a nice person, a person with a decent perspective who doesn't take everything too seriously. And again, loving a bargain and thrifting clothes and throwing things together, I think that also comes from being a part of Liverpool in my own way, because Scousers love a bargain. Yeah, there will forever be a big piece of my heart right there.
Yeah. Well, and also just to kind of circle back to what you were talking about with like loving a bargain, just giving yourself permission to create and to express yourself with what you're wearing and allowing that to be bold. I mean, some of the stuff that you put together, I'm like, girl, you go, like bold, how fun, right? And
Yeah.
not every woman lets herself be expressive for whatever reason. Like, was there hesitancy at any point to go there? You know, have you let your creative freak fly a little more now that you're doing this more often?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was once I had set my mind on it and I had asserted in my mind that this is who I was, it didn't matter what anybody else thought.
Yeah.
Getting over that initial hurdle, yeah, I definitely was fearful of judgment or, but then strangely, when I just decided this is who I am, and then that confirmed it for myself, I sort of let go of any qualms. I'll try anything. I'll wear anything. I don't care. I don't care. And I also, I have a lot of conversations online because I think some people might perceive that it might be easier for me to try certain things because I'm 5'3" and, there's all this focus on specific body types. And whereas there are so many incredible creators that I follow, I created a creator highlight on my Instagram page that showcases creators from all over the world with all different kinds of bodies, with different abilities. And it really shows that a large part of it is a mindset. The majority of the people that I have shared on that highlight are women, and they are all celebrating themselves and having the most fun and the best time. And they are not in any way held back by, there's a phenomenal creator, April Lockhart. She has a limb difference. Okay, so she addresses what it is to dress and put on a piece of clothing when it's challenging to reach that zip, and how refreshing it is when a brand designs their clothes that can assist her in a certain way. And then there'll be another creator who makes all their own clothes because they could never find anything that they felt was quite the right cut for them and gave them the comfort that they were looking for. So they went off in a different avenue. There are just women of every age. That's one of my favorite things to follow, is women celebrating themselves at every age, because we as a society have spent so much time saying, no, stick to your lane. You can't wear a mini skirt if you're 60. What? Who says? Why not? Some of my favorite accounts are 60-year-olds, 70-year-olds rocking mini skirts. You can't, there's all these rules, and to me, none of them apply. I think it's more about you can. If you want to, you can. If it makes you happy, you can.
Yeah. Yeah. And that also you can choose every day to be expressive in that way. And I'm sure that when you do dress up, it like lights you up in a different way, gives you a little extra sparkle.
Well, yeah. And there's intention behind it. I decided that this day was not just every other day. I decided that this is how I'm expressing myself today, and this is how I'm meeting the world today. And there's intention behind it. Not to say that your intention can also be, hey, I'm going to put my sweatpants on and hide in bed. And that's my intention for today. But the way you dress, definitely, regardless of what's going on outside your front door, it implies to yourself what the choices are that you're making with your life. And I really think that, much like being an actor, a character really comes together when you step into their shoes and their clothes.
Totally.
Okay, so who do you want to be? What shoes do you want to step into? What clothes do you want to wear? And it doesn't matter if you don't have to uphold anyone else's standards of perfection, or am I doing it right? Am I good at putting colors together? Are you happy? That's it. That's all that matters.
Yeah. Do you do that? Do you take a moment before you get ready in the day to be like, all right, what am I feeling? Like, how's the wind blowing? Like, what is your process?
Yes. And sometimes I'll put something on and be like, nope, not feeling that. And I don't know why. I'm just not. I do know that I'm close to never feeling black, which is why you're not seeing a ton. There's a small little bit there. I do have some more black, but I just don't feel my best self in black. But once in a while, I am in the mindset to be, chic LBD, or be a little bit more timeless and pop on something a little bit more desaturated. But for the most part, I just want to be a giant flower flapping in the wind. That's how I feel happy.
I love it. Okay, going back to my long ass list of questions. What is a recipe that you that nourishes you, that you love, and why?
So I mentioned earlier, I found out a year ago that I had high blood sugar. So I changed a lot of my diet. And one of the big things that I started to do, for two reasons: diet restrictions, but also honestly time. Both Brianna and I, we have boys around the same age. If I'm not working, I'm momming, and I like to eat little and often. So I make myself a smoothie with matcha, cacao, hemp, flax, super greens, almond butter. I'm sure I've missed something out in that chunk of pea protein, frozen strawberries and blueberries because they're the lowest on the glycemic index, and almond milk. And I do unsweetened everything, and I really like Trader Joe's almond butter, the no salt one, because that has the lowest of sugar that I've found in almond butters. Blend that all up, and that makes me, honestly, in a pinch, that'll do me for breakfast and lunch. And then for dinner, I will sit down and have a proper meal. But it's just nice to have something on the go. It's cold. We live in LA where it's hot. It's refreshing, hydrating. And yeah, I can feel the pep in my step since I made that transition.
Oh, I love that. I love that. I know you being a singer and I mean, clearly a Britney Spears lover. What is a song that inspires you aside from Britney Spears?
Yeah.
Almost one that
So yeah, I mean, I'm of the Britney Spears, Justin Timberlake, Destiny's Child generation. And right around that time, coming out of Blighty was the Spice Girls.
Yes.
And I remember I was in my mum's living room when I heard them sing Wannabe for the first time. And there was the 5 of them in their respective characters that they had chosen in the matching ensembles. And I just hadn't heard music like that. I just remember going, it was like a whole new part of my ear opened up. And I loved how much fun they were having and how empowered they were. All of a sudden, me and all my girlfriends I mean, we must have been, I don't even know how old I was, but girl power, left, right, and center. And that was really my first recollection of female empowerment in that way. I had it represented in my mom all day, every day, but this was the first time I'd seen it really called out. And it left a big impression on me. I wanted to be Jerry Halliwell. She was my favorite.
Yeah.
Ginger Spice.
Ginger Spice.
Ginger.
What is a book that's really impacted you?
Harry Potter. I don't have time to read books these days. And the last time I read a series of books was Harry Potter. And I think it's just a British thing. Obviously, it has an enormous fan base. But for me, especially living in America, Harry Potter just makes me feel like home. Just reminds me of home. So it's very comforting.
Have you taken Crosby to Universal Studios where he has a wand and he can pretend to do
I've not yet. He's seen the first Harry Potter, everything except the scary part with the head unwrapping.
Mm-hmm.
And at some point we will take him. But yeah, I don't know why he hasn't been. He's only been to Legoland so far. He hasn't done Disney. He hasn't done Universal. But it's on the list.
Yeah, we just did Universal, and he did the little Harry Potter and had a butterbeer.
Did he get a wand?
Yes, we got a wand.
And do you get picked by the sorting hat there? Do they do that?
I didn't know that was a thing, so we know he did not.
Next time.
Mom fail. Didn't know that was a thing, but now I know. Okay, yeah. I mean, those books are amazing. The movies are amazing. And even the musical that came through was really great. It's a little like mature, but I kind of have to have seen all of them for our kids are literally the same age.
Yes, they get a bit scary for our kids.
Yeah, it's a little scary. What is a quote? I'm huge into quotes. I love quotes. I don't know why. I've always loved quotes. But what is a quote that you love and why?
I'm going to butcher it, but it's along the lines of, you only get a tiny spark of madness and you mustn't lose it, which is a Robin Williams quote. And this sounds terrible. I don't really get sad when celebrities pass. I just kind of think, oh, that's such a shame, but I don't get emotional. But man, oh man, when he passed, listen, it could possibly be because I grew up without a dad and somewhere in my head, Robin Williams was my dad, like watching Mrs. Doubtfire and Hook and all of those things. And I think as a kid, he was the dad I would have picked from the movies. Patch Adams, he just was everything you wanted a dad to be.
Yeah.
Good Will Hunting. God, he was so good. And that spark of madness made so much sense to me. And I could see his spark of madness. And I think that was what drew me to him. And I'm proud of my spark of madness. My kid always says, Mom, don't be weird or don't be a weirdo. And I say, what are you talking about? The weird ones are the coolest. I love being weird. I love being a weirdo. I don't want to be the same. I want to be a unicorn. And I take pride in that. I love that he saw that and the value of that. And I think it really was the sort of the root of who he was, his spark of madness. And I miss it.
Yeah, what a shame that he passed in the way that he did as early as he did. What is a cause that you champion and why?
So a really incredible organization, Edizia, makes a nutritional supplement for kids who are suffering from acute malnutrition. And it's called Plumpy Nut, but it's a packet about this big. And if you open it, it looks like a peanut butter paste, but it has everything that a child needs to go from a child who is about to pass from starvation to being a kid who is happy and healthy and plumpy in the space of 8 to 10 weeks. And it only takes 2 packets a day over 8 to 10 weeks, which levels out to about a box. And 1 box of this incredible magic food costs $50. So that's all it costs to save a life. $50. And my husband, Todd Grinnell, when I first met him, he was flying back and forth from the Ivory Coast, working with kids who needed surgeries for different reasons. So he would fly out and meet the family or head to the orphanage and meet this child who needed his help. And then this child would leave with him and they would fly back to the United States together. And then Todd would help this child get to a foster family where the child would stay with for 6 months while they got the surgeries that they needed. And then he would go and meet them and take them back. And so during his time there, during one of the trips, he was helping to build a bridge to connect a village and a refugee camp. And in the refugee camp, he saw this supplement, this plumpy nut supplement. And he's been an advocate for it ever since. And he now works very closely with Adizia. So in our household, we are pro Adizia, pro feeding kids and getting it to as many places as we can across the world.
And then how do people, if they want to help out with that, make sure that they're like getting that so it's going to those places in need? Like I'm sure
you can head to my husband's Instagram at Todd Grinnell. And if you click the link in his bio, you can donate to Adizia there. Or you can just go straight to the Adizia website, EDESIA, and click donate and donate there. If you've got $50 to spare, you could save a life today.
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. Who is a mentor or influencer that's been impactful to you?
Vivienne Westwood. I've been obsessed with Vivienne Westwood for as long as I can remember. I don't even know when I became aware of who she was, but as a child, I remember being obsessed by her. A close friend of my mom's was a stylist, and she had pieces of hers, and I remember seeing her in the corsets. And there was the Victoria and Albert Museum is one of my favorite museums, and they have the History of Art exhibit. And at one point, they had a Vivienne Westwood exhibit, which I went to go and see. And her sense, again, I think her sense of madness just really stuck with me. And she's also she was a badass. She was just a tough broad. She had strong feelings and she was not afraid to share them, and she stood up for the right things. And people laughed at her designs when they first saw them, when they first appeared on talk shows. There's clips of people sitting and laughing and not taking her seriously, and nothing deterred her. I mean, in a sense, she's so responsible for the punk movement. She's responsible for so much more than people know. And I just found her immensely inspiring and always will.
That's amazing. Who would you amplify?
Who would I amplify?
I mean, you already are with other creators, but is there anyone else that like in your life, you're like, oh my God, everyone needs to pay attention to
Yes.
blah, blah, blah.
My dear friend, Sarah Jane Jensen, who is also on Instagram. I believe her handle is I'm Sarah Jane, Broadway's to Babies, one or the other. But she was on Broadway. She's been in movies and TV shows, and phenomenal actress and dancer. And her sister is a prima ballerina for the Oslo Ballet, and her other sister was also on Broadway. Her mom's incredible pink hair shopper on Instagram, the most colorful, vibrant, stylish woman I've ever met in my life. But Sarah is, if you could really describe what an angel is walking among us, it's Sarah. She's the most of service person I've ever met in my life. She will do anything for anyone. She is the epitome of selflessness, almost to the point where I end up getting cross with her and saying, Sarah, you've got to put on your oxygen mask first. You've got to. She's just the most truly good human being I know. And 2 minutes alone with her lights me up for a whole week. And she's got a really wonderful Instagram account that you can go and follow and get to follow along with her and her family. She's so stylish. She's decorated her home beautifully, the Frenchie Tudor, and you can keep up with all of her shenanigans and just wholesome goodness. She's a great human being. In a world where we need a whole lot more joy and empathy, she's got tons to spare.
And I feel like the world has so many amazing people. We need to be putting our focus more on that. And then we'd all realize like, oh, no. There's a lot of great. Like there's a lot of great. Of course, there's always works in progress in our interest, but there are so many amazing people doing and creating and being just incredible examples of change and possibility and brightness. What advice would you give your younger self? Not that you're old, but you're like kiddo you.
What advice would I give my younger self? I think this is not helpful, but in a way, I think I'd let her be, because every major mistake that I have made, or tough patch, or pit in the road I wished I'd dodged, or pothole, they're all responsible for me being where I am. And I don't think I would take any of it back. And I've had anxiety, postpartum depression. I've had and continue to have. I had a tough time being pregnant, and there's been plenty of things that you'd think that I would change, but I don't think I would change anything at all because I am where I am and I'm okay with it. And if I'm not okay with it, then it's my responsibility to change it now. And I'd rather live right here and do that, I think. So she
Yeah.
was okay. She was all right.
Yeah.
And we'll see where she ends up.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I love that too, because it's like the advice you would give is like, this is where you're supposed to be and it's going to be great. Just keep
Yeah.
going.
Just,
Right? Like
yeah,
a
be in the
version of that.
present. Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess be in the present is how I would sum that up.
Yeah. Well, and kind of like what you said earlier on, which was really beautiful, is that, scarcity creates invention, right?
Yeah, it's a saying, which I'm probably butchering, but I think it's necessity breeds invention, I think is I can't remember properly, but my mom threw that one out all the time. My mom loves that one. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, think about it. It's like that whole idea that pain pushes until vision pulls, or, we think that we're going to learn the most, when things are actually more complicated and difficult versus when things are easy. So it's
Yeah.
the reframing of difficult times that like, no, that's what cooking, that's going to force you to cook it up faster.
Oh, I think I've always been at my best when I was at my worst. The most has blossomed. Pandemic made me realize who I was and what I wanted in different ways and flourish with creativity. And if I can find dark places, I just start shedding seeds. It's like, I don't know, I think my mom very much was of the mindset of the get back on the horse mindset, and somewhere that's just ingrained. So yeah, I don't worry too much about the dark patches because I know it's my job to then fill them with light. And I seem to just naturally take that on and run with it. So I get excited about what's coming. Okay, here's where we are. We can't go much further down. So let's start climbing up.
Yeah. And then also, if we do go further down, like, I'll figure it out. Like, because you have that in yourself.
Yeah. The world's not going to end, we hope. And if it does, well, then what are you going to do?
Yeah. Then we're going to, we'll find out who's right. We'll find out which religion won. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I'll see my nan again and that'll be great.
When you said that you had a real realization during the pandemic, what was it? I mean, sure, I'm sure it was a lot of things, but like, what about your life do you feel like became more pronounced for you during that period of time?
I think probably both of us had just had kids not long before the pandemic began. So I think, we were already, our awareness of time had changed, free time, spare time. And I think the pandemic really compounded that. And my husband and I are both people who need to feel a sense of validation at the end of our day, and we can't just sit on our butts. So our industry shut down, much like all the others, most of them. And so, and all of our kids were at home without carers, and we had to figure out how to traverse that. And our son has asthma. So for us, before really knowing what COVID would mean, we had already seen him struggle to breathe from a regular cold. So we had additional concerns and we really just locked down. And so we looked at each other and went, okay, well, how do we carve out time for ourselves and get through this? So we started the 7 to 1, 1 to 7 schedule, which we still uphold now, which is one parent wakes when Crosby goes. The best thing we ever did was sleep train. He wakes up at 7, he goes to bed at 7. And so when he wakes up at 7, one parent is responsible for him until 1 p.m. And then at 1 p.m., parent B steps in and is responsible for him until bedtime. And then, through the night, let's say until 1 a.m. And then from that point onwards, parent B carries on through the morning up until 1 p.m. the next day, and then parent B steps in. I messed that up. Hold on. 7 to 1, 1 to 7.
You alternate who's responsible between 1 to 7, 7 to 1.
We alternate. Okay, the 1 to 7, the 7 to 1, 1 to 7 parenting schedule. I wake up with him at 7 and I have him till 1. Then Todd takes over at 1, has him till 7, then wakes up with him at 7 the next morning and has him till 1. And then I take over the next day at 1. So essentially we each get 24 hours with our child.
Ooh.
And you are responsible for your child for that 24 hours, whether they're at school and they get sent home, whatever happens in between your 7 to 1, 1 to 7, you're in charge of your kid. And we also had it that whoever has the kid does the cooking and the cleaning, so that whoever doesn't has a solid 24 hours clear to themselves. However, because we split the day at 1 in the afternoon, your kid always gets to see you both in one day. So you just have one parent in the morning and one parent in the afternoon. But on the weekends, you're all together. So we only do it Monday through Friday. And it means that both parents get a sleep in because we only have one child. If we had 2, it would be different, but we only have 1. So both parents get a sleep in every other day if they need it. And we both got a good 7 hours in our day every day during the pandemic to create whatever it was we wanted to create in that time. And so I utilized that time and started creating and ended up hand making jewelry in my guest room. And I think I did a bunch of sales, and I would throw them up, and then they would sell out sometimes in like under 3 minutes. And the last sale I ever did, I handmade 573 pairs of earrings, and they all sold. And then our industry started to light back up again, and I didn't have the time anymore. But it showed me that I could successfully, I think I made about $27,000 on that last sale. And for something made in your bedroom, it showed me that I was possible, that was possible, that was something I could do, that was, and I then our industry picked back up, but I keep that with me now whilst I'm figuring out if I want to continue to make products to sell and how I could do that with my current time that I have. And I learned a lot from those lessons, and I never would have even ventured into that had it not been for us being in a pandemic.
And also you guys being strategic with time management.
Yeah. And understanding what we both needed and the only way we were going to survive, because it was just us until work started to come knocking again. It was just us. And that was a lot, but you grow, you adapt, you evolve, right?
Yeah. And then what activity did you do when you were younger that, again, you're not old, but when you were a kid that people might be surprised by?
I used to horse ride at the horse rangers in Hampton Court, the Royal Horse Rangers. It's a really incredible organization that rescues horses and provides kids who otherwise would not have been able to afford that hobby to get to connect with and ride horses. So you ride one weekend, and the next weekend you muck out stables and clean tack and care for the animals. And it was a really beautiful experience that I otherwise would never have been able to have if that organization hadn't been created. So that was really cool.
Yeah. Do you still ride?
It's been a long time. I've ridden on a horse for a job before, so that came in handy. But the last time I rode a horse was through Bushy Park in London during a thunderstorm. And my girlfriend and I, she had her own horses, and so we decided to take them out into the park, and they flipped out in the thunderstorm. So we ended up jumping off and holding the reins, standing together with their butts kind of just circling around us trying to not get kicked or hit. And I got through off a lot when I was younger. I always had a body protector on, and I was always inevitably riding the smaller horses. But this was the first time that I really became aware of how badly hurt we could have gotten in that moment. And being an actor, you really cannot afford to have a broken leg or worse. So after that, it's not something that I've done as a pastime, but I still love horses and forever will.
Yeah. It's so funny because as you're talking about horses, my son is literally at an equestrian camp. So that's like he's learning how to horseback ride.
Here's the thing too, like when you're younger, your bones are malleable, and he's probably riding ponies. So it'll be,
and they're not even they're not galloping or anything. It's pretty.
Yeah.
It's basic. Yeah. It's basic. All right. So what are you promoting? How can people find you? You're just such a light. This is so fun. And how can people have more lightness and fun?
The best place to come find me is at India de Beaufort on Instagram, INDIADEBEAU, F for Freddie, ORT. Promotion wise, I just shot an indie, which will be out hopefully, I think, next year, called Another, which was really fun. And I'm going to be working with 2 brands coming up this year, designing capsule collections for them, which I'm really looking forward to. So there'll be more information about that on my page. And I just recently started doing speaking engagements. I'm actually headed off to DC at the end of this week to go and do my first, which will be really fun for women in leadership. So I'm really excited to start actually getting to communicate with people, not through Instagram, but in person, in real life. Like that's going to be really, really fun. And I'm styling a couple people and getting to share some tips and tricks. And I think another one in November. So yeah, it's fun. Lots of fun stuff.
Amazing. Yeah, and all of that's in the show notes as well. Well, thank you so much. This is so awesome. I so appreciate you being on the podcast.
Thank you for having me, and give Charlie a big squeeze from us.
Thank you for tuning in to another empowering episode of Manifesting Your Mission. If today's insight resonated with you, be sure to subscribe and share your thoughts with a review. Tag me on Instagram at Brianna Brown Keen, as I would love to hear from you. If you are ready to turn up the dial on your journey, dive deeper with my guidebook, or explore personalized coaching options or my annual retreat, visit manifestingyourmission.org for more details. Remember, you can find me on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at Brianna Brown Keen. Together, we can rise higher, shine brighter, and give back. I'm Brianna Brown Keen, and this is Manifesting Your Mission. Until next time, keep believing in your dreams and living your purpose.